My name's Angela Zaranandia. I'm from San Rafael, California, and I'm a film student.
My name is Alan Graham Law. I'm from Long Beach, California, and I'm a cinema student at San Francisco State.
I picked film as my major in college, pretty much just because I love movies. Since my focus is writing, I just love to write.
All the films that I've made so far have just been about the people around me. I like the idea of coming of age stories and things like that, and moments in your life that define who you're going to be for the rest of your life.
When I hear the word China, I kind of think about just a separate culture from my own. It's foreign to me, but it's exciting because it's different.
When I hear the word China, I think the Great Wall of China.
I don't know much about Chinese culture. I think living in the Bay Area, I've been exposed to part of Chinese culture, just hanging around Chinatown. I don't know how representative it is of the entirety of China since it's such a huge country.
I don't know a ton about Chinese culture. I know it's been around so much longer than the United States, so there's so much more history and stuff to learn about it. We are going to HuiZhou for 3 weeks.
And it's going to be divided up week by week. The first week is mainly research. I believe we're going to 12 different locations.
We travel into a small village in Huangshan, kind of meet the people who live there and check out the landscape and stuff like that, and kind of decide what we want to film this documentary about.
And then the next week is going to be shooting.
And third week, editing.
How many people? 157.
And then there's a premiere at the end.
We're going to be divided up into 4 or 5 groups, and we're going to be making our own individual documentaries.
I'm really excited to see Huangshan, the Yellow Mountain.
I kind of just want to see the environment because it looks fantastical, it looks like just a mystical place.
I would love to get to know people who live there and get to know their way of life rather than my own, so I can kind of broaden my perspective.
I hope to gain just kind of a better understanding of our world, especially just meeting more people, seeing how other people live their lives.
I'm a little nervous just because of the language barrier and the cultural barrier.
I've been trying to go to every single Chinese class. I'm really interested in learning the language.
My biggest fear right now is that I'll lose my passport.
I think it'll be really cool just to experience a different culture.
My biggest fear is going to be my communication, or lack thereof.
My biggest worry would just be the language barrier.
I'm really concerned about the humidity because my hair is going to be a mess. It's just going to...
I'm open to try anything. I'm really excited to get some new food.
I am super excited about this trip.
I'm super excited about going to China. I'll see you there.
It's pretty good. Oh, yeah?
Actually, this is a case. It's a very nice way.
I've never been outside.
I'm enjoying it, and I'm soaking wet.
If this looks good, oh, I don't want that shot in there anymore. Or oh, I think we need more here.
So today was our first day in Huangshan City.
And we started the orientation.
So this is such a great pleasure to welcome everyone come to China.
And Wei Min went over the syllabus and what we're going to be doing for the next 3 weeks.
And it sounds like a lot. It sounds really jam-packed.
And it was pretty exciting to finally hear what exactly we're doing and where we're going.
Today we went and started our field trip at Tunxi Ancient Street.
And apparently it dates back to the Song Dynasty.
And we met Mr. Wang, who is a wonton vendor.
And it was pretty cool. He had this long wooden stick in which he carried a boiler in the front and then a little station where he made the wontons in the back.
He had picked up his trade from his father. When he cooked, he did, I don't know what it was, sort of a dance. He would kick his leg out and flip his bowl up around and then throw in all the ingredients. And he'd take all the spices, put them in the bowl, and then he'd go to the other cart and put in the wonton and the soup.
It was really fascinating to watch. He was definitely like a master of his craft. The way he would make the wontons was so quick, and it was funny to see him do it in front of us because he knew we were all like really into it and amazed by his skills.
He'd been doing it for 18 years, and he didn't start off with anyone working for him. He did it all by himself. And now he has 20 employees, I believe. It's not a profitable business. It's a very small profit margin, so he does it kind of just for the love of it, feeding people and his passion.
And I tried them and they're super good. Yeah, I have never had anything like it before.
I'm with you, Maddie. It's really hot. It's so hot, but it tastes so good. Oh, 他说很好吃. It tastes so good. Pretty good.
They taste a little bit like pancake batter, a little bit like wonton soup. Absolutely delicious.
It tastes like wonton soup. That's what it tastes like, wonton soup. But just a better version of it.
When we were finished with Mr. Wang, we walked down the street and we went into the inkstone shop.
开始不会，然后向我们的老师学习。
Mr. Zheng, who's the inkstone carver.
He makes inkstones for calligraphy. The design of the inkstones themselves, they're all black, and they have their own designs that are beautiful. Some of them have faces, some of them are just of nature, and some of them he doesn't design at all. He uses the natural beauty and just carves out where the inkwell will go.
Apparently, from what he said, it kind of sounded like it was his obsession because he went to school while, and on the weekends he would practice the inkstone carving and continued doing so for just years on end. From watching him, you could see his like peace of mind and the meditation that he was going through. It was really, really inspiring.
After that, we went to the Ancient Art Museum.
Mr. Gun, who is a lacquer artist. Mr. Gun was appointed by a committee in China to be the heir of lacquer art. Basically, that means he's like the top dog, he's the best in China. He would never say he's better than anyone, he's just trying his best to do the best for him. And it's not about showing off or becoming well-known for being the best lacquer artist around. It's more for like self-satisfaction and things like that. And that was also really inspiring.
Mr. Gan showed us around the museum, and we saw all of the different pots and vases and boxes and teacups, and it was beautiful. I've never seen any art like it before in my life. We went upstairs and saw the artists working on all the pieces. There were polishers and washers and painters, and I actually had the pleasure of sanding one myself.
They were so focused on their work, and you know, all the students were taking pictures of them, and like they didn't really seem to mind because they were so focused on what they were doing. That was probably one of the most fascinating things I saw all day, because just, I mean, again, the meditation and the peacefulness that they had in their work was amazing. From there, we kind of sat in the courtyard and chatted with amongst each other.
If you don't organize, if you don't have your ideas, you're not going to be able to write anything. You can't plan if you don't plan anything, then you can't shoot. So you have to be as organized as possible. That's the biggest key.
I think most people on this trip strive to have some sort of find meditation or just happiness in their work in general. Seeing these people, there's people all the way across the world who have the same goals as I do. Even though it might be in a different medium or something like that, it's kind of just the human condition to want to delve into your work and really like become a part of it and put your best work into the art that you make.
Today was a little bit overwhelming, to be honest. This is the first time I've ever taken a class outside of the US, and it's been very different from any class I've taken before, but I feel like that's good for what we're doing. We need to take all the input we're receiving and turn it into art.
So today we started off by taking a 2-hour bus ride to Wugongling.
And it was absolutely beautiful driving up there.
And we develop our local tea.
The head of the village told us that the village itself is made up of only about 2,000 people. He told us all about everything that they do in the community and all about the tea they grow.
Apparently they make white tea.
The biggest resource for income in the village is their white tea.
You could say it's a delicacy in China. It's a little bit higher than green tea or something like that. It's a little bit more fancy. From there, we took a short hike up to the tea terraces. Another thing that was really impressive was the ingenuity and the techniques that they use to work with the land that they have.
After lunch, we came back on the bus and drove down to Chengkan Village, where we saw an opera.
And we went backstage and got to see the preparation and the makeup that was being put on the opera singer. It was really cool to watch the process and how calm he was while he was putting on the paint. His face was covered in red and he had these black symbols all over his face. And then they dressed him in like the traditional gown. And gave him a big beard. It was really exciting to be back there because when else are you going to be able to get footage like that? And we were so packed in there, I can imagine for the singer it was a little bit overwhelming. But he didn't seem to mind too much and he seemed happy to have us there. So there's 3 performances in all. There was a small percussion section on the side, and they're providing the music.
The first performance was of the general, who was dressed in all traditional gown with a headdress, and his face was painted red with black, and he had a large staff that he would dance with.
And the first performance kind of floored me, to be honest. It made me really emotional. Beyond just the performance, it was the little kids watching and dancing and just the sense of community in this little theater. So the second performance was a woman who was portraying a female general. Her movements were very fluid. She was moving all over the stage. Very calm and a serene performance, and the percussion really added a lot to it.
I was lucky enough to be able to perform a little bit in traditional gown and dressing, and I got to do some of the dance moves. It was very fun. Today's experience was a little bit more relaxed, I think, just because of the environment seems much more mellow. I wasn't as overwhelmed as I was the other day.
I think the sense of community is what struck me the most, because it's such a small village and everyone gathers together to watch this performance. It seems like a really exciting part of their lifestyle. And it was exciting to see everyone congregated in one area and them socializing and talking with one another and just being neighborly. Anything, just the day-to-day lifestyle that they're living is like, that's the real core of what I want to see.
Today we woke up bright and early again, and we went to Chengkan Village.
We were talking to the tour guide, and he mentioned that Tunxi is shaped like an ox. And we were in front of a big lake, and he said that the lake was the belly of the ox.
We crossed the bridge over the waterway, and we went to the ancient school. The ancient school taught Confucianism and Taoism.
At the end there was a big picture of Confucius, and above it said, "The Great Teacher." Mr. Wang told us how the classrooms were very small and they would go through grade school for many years with the same class, and so they had very close relationships. As I walked further into the village, I saw little rivers flowing between houses and along the path that we were walking on. So after the school, we headed towards the ancestral hall, which was basically a meeting place for the town where they made important decisions on the future of the village.
The pillars around the roof were carved into really beautiful images. The walls were decorated with ancient scholars.
We saw a picture of the woman who designed the irrigation systems and the ox-like shape of Tunxi, but she was actually not allowed in the ancestral hall during the time because of their customs at the time.
After the lunch break, we visited Mr. Wu at the Compass Museum. He told us that his family has a long lineage of designing and building these compasses.
The Nan compasses are world-renowned because they're a lot more complex than your average compass. The difference between a modern compass, say the one you find on your iPhone, and the Wenan compass is the amount of work that goes into it and the precision to detail.
We learned about the two different types of compasses they make, one being the water compass and the other the dry compass.
The rock that provides the power for the compasses is actually a meteorite that fell from the sky. It's the only kind of rock that doesn't demagnetize, so the compasses will always work. He told us a crazy story about his ancestors and when they found the geometric rock that they used to place inside the compass, and how his family fought for it and died for the rock. And now it's in the museum. Imagine that, how happy they'd be to know that it's gone down thousands of years and is now spinning around in a museum where everyone can look at it and appreciate their hard work.
We went back to Tunxi and went back down Old Street, and we went to a hotel. We walked along the pathway and got to see all the lotus flowers growing on the side. When we walked in, there was a very long table that stretched from the entryway to the back of the room. The woman there told us the history of the building, which is very extensive and culturally significant. So the downstairs, being the old building it was, has a very different feel from the upstairs, which is more modernized and seems more like an actual hotel. The hotel room had its own little divot in the living room where you could sit and have some tea or have a meal. And the bathroom was fascinating.
It was very Western, like the hospitality was very Western, where you have a big room and you have a big tub and it's luxurious.
this place. This is amazing. I think I would stay here if I could.
After the hotel, we visited a coffee shop owned by Elizabeth.
I like coffee, but I'm not really professional. It's a way of bringing people to together. So this is
Elizabeth opened up a coffee shop with her mom's support.
Elizabeth's mom was great. She seemed super proud of her daughter.
The coffee shop was actually quite small. There was a bar along the one side and then a couch or a booth on the other side. It was really dark for some reason, but it had a certain mood that was kind of unique. I'd never been in a coffee shop like it before.
Someone asked Elizabeth about what she studied in school, and she said broadcasting. Naturally, we wondered why she chose to make a coffee house instead of pursuing her studies in the broadcasting field. And I believe she said, if you want to have a beautiful day, you have to wake up from the dream. The way she put it made it really beautiful in that there can always be a second option and you can find love in that. And she really found love in her coffee house.
great.
That's you.
How much?
First black no, it's me.
So the last place that we visited today was the tea house.
We tried a lot of different teas. One of them was the white tea from the mountain we'd visited the other day.
The tea house that we're currently in is very modern. There's wide open spaces where people can walk around and look at the art. Everything is really neatly organized and precise.
She said she would go up to the mountain where we'd just been personally and get the tea herself. Leo said that she was an art major, actually.
She was working in a museum in Shanghai until her father got sick, and he asked her to inherit the business. And she mentioned that it was like a really difficult decision. She ended up inheriting the business and looking after her father. It kind of played back into what Elizabeth said about waking up from a dream and having a beautiful day. And it's something that applies to everyone's life and is like such a universal message. "40 years ago, China adopted the open door policy, which meant that businesses aren't owned by the government and that they're private, and individuals can create their own businesses and have opportunities to choose what they want to do and pursue it. All three of the establishments that we went to today were owned by women who went out on their own and decided to do their own thing. This wouldn't have been possible 40 years ago because they wouldn't have the opportunity.
Today we went to Chengkan Village in Huangshan, and it actually reminded me a lot about Hangchun Village, the place we visited yesterday.
This is a small village that is protected by mountains and surrounded by a river, and so it's like really well preserved, and the locals there have been able to like reap the benefits of the protection for a long time.
When we first walked in, we saw the water filled with all the lotus flowers. There was a bridge just like Hangchun. We got to take a lot of photos there. It was fun.
Clearly the irrigation water is very prevalent in Chengkan. The buildings were white and kind of deteriorating a little bit, but it had a great effect to it.
Our tour guide was telling us about the historical context of Chengkan.
The mountains surrounding Chengkan Village and the river that flows through it is in the shape of a yin and yang symbol. Chengkan got its name because yang is also known as Chang and yin is Kan.
They place a lot of emphasis on harmony with nature, which is the basis of feng shui. And then we were presented with some ribbons, and we got to tie them around the trees.
The first goal in your mind is to get the highest one, to put the ribbon as high as it can possibly be.
Wyatt got Lyndon on his shoulders and raised her up so she could tie her ribbon up even higher than everyone else.
While we were walking through Chengkan, our professor told us the importance of staying together as a group because Chengkan is kind of arranged in a maze-like pattern and that there are 3 main lanes and 99 roads intersecting. Every corner we turned kind of felt like we were in a completely different spot and that finding the people in our group would be very difficult. I knew that if I got too far, I might not find my way back.
I wanted one, I got a souvenir, but then I was like, you know what,
We went into one of the old buildings and there was a big sort of turn dial in the center of the room.
This is actually a bagua. Based on your Chinese zodiac sign, you spin a little wheel and whatever it lands on determines your fortune.
I was born in 1997, which is the year of the ox. So I was standing in front of the ox and we have to turn the wheel, sort of like Wheel of Fortune. It landed on some number that a guy wrote down on a piece of paper and I had to bring to another guy. I have to give him 20 yuan. He told me my fortune.
He told me that my crops are dry, which was funny, but rain is going to come, so that's reassuring. Yeah, that's about it. Oh, he also told me that my luck is going to change for the better.
I was born in 1996, so that's the year of the rat. He told me that I'm going to have good luck through my life and that I'm going to get married at 25 and have a big family and not ever get a divorce. He said stay away from people who are horses and sheep and that I should be friends with oxes, dragons, and monkeys.
I'm on the right career path. I'm headed for a promotion. I'll never get disease. I'll get fame, money, and power, everything I've ever wished for, but I have to go south because the people there will help me get it.
There hasn't been a lot of sunshine in my life, and this year is going to be my most unlucky year, but after this year, I will have good fortune for 5 years, and that was about as far as the fortune went. After that, he said, it's up to you, so.
The best thing that came out of it was that my family will be healthy, and that I'm marriage material, so it would be my second time getting married. I don't know if I want to do that though.
So after we got our fortunes told, we got to go to some old building and perform a ceremony that took place thousands of years ago. For the ceremony, we were given robes to put on.
They're actually really surprisingly comfortable and flowy. I honestly would like to wear one every day or lounging around the house because you look so cool and sophisticated while at the same time being very comfortable. When I think of China, I think of people dressed in robes like this, and so it's pretty funny seeing all my classmates dressed up together and really being immersed in the culture.
And we had to go outside and line up in 2 lines, and then we'd walk in and bang a drum 3 times.
There was a couple scholars who were teaching us about the right way to show respect to people. There was different ways in which you'd hold your hand and bow to different people. So for instance, you can either show respect to your ancestors, your family members, and the highest respect that you show is to the emperor. When you talk to the emperor, the proper way to do it is to, for males, is to put your left hand in front of your right hand and tuck your thumbs down. And you bend down and bow at a 45-degree angle, and you can't rise until the emperor tells you to. And it was an interesting way because it was very meditative, and he was showing us the proper way to stand and our posture, and made me feel really good just being in that building and having one of the scholars be so receptive to us and be so open to teaching us about his culture.
This class is really special, I think, because everyone seems to get along really well. I'd be happy to just do this documentary with everyone.
So after lunch, we got to the HuiZhou carving museum.
The museum was divided up into 4 sections.
The first little section was mostly bamboo carvings. These were practical things that people would use in their day-to-day lives, like baskets. There was pipes carved out of bamboo, and cups, normal things that you would use in your day-to-day life.
There was this one piece that I wasn't sure what it was, but it was for when you write, you place your hand on it, and it's supposed to just elevate your wrist so that it doesn't get uncomfortable.
The wood carvings were kind of big slabs of wood with portraits of animals and Chinese lifestyle.
They were kind of overwhelming with the amount of detail that was put into it.
So the third section was bricks. Some of the bricks weren't as malleable as the wood or the bamboo. They looked a little bit more prehistoric.
They were used more for outdoor purposes.
The stone carvings also generally be on the outside of the house and depicted strong and ferocious animals as a way to defend the house against bad spirits and bad energy. Near the end of the tour, we actually got to sit down and carve our own pieces in bamboo.
We received these cups with a design on it that we were supposed to carve the inside of.
I was really excited because it would be a chance to kind of just work on something and be in my own mind and try to perfect it.
You can look at a piece all you want and appreciate it, but you can't really appreciate it truly until you actually do it with your own hands.
Don't get too comfortable though, because then you start to screw up.
What I learned from this is that there's things that I might think I know and that I'm doing them the right way, but there's always a way to get better and there's more things to learn. By just continually practicing and sticking with your craft, you can make amazing art that tells stories and has an impact on people's lives.
Today we started out at HuiZhou, the village that produces all the bonsai trees in this area.
And upon arriving, we were greeted by our tour guide, and he showed us the bonsai plants. They were really beautiful, and he explained a lot to us about the process of making them.
They have this method of growing the trees called grafting trees. They take parts of the different trees and marry them together to form exactly what they want.
He talked about how each bonsai artist raises the plants from its origins, so they grow them and are shaping them their entire lives.
We learned some of the different shapes of the trees, one of which was called the swimming dragon, and I thought that was just absolutely beautiful.
The village produces these bonsai plants like no other village in China, and so their economy relies on it. And a lot of the families there are the bonsai artists, and they have their whole families living there.
About 40 years ago, the open door policy in China was established. Private businesses were allowed to flourish and grow, like the bonsai tree business. That naturally brought a lot of wealth to the village, and they were able to thrive.
So the second stop today was the Xi'an River. We hopped on a big boat and had a guide taking us through the river. There was tons of little houses with fishing boats out front. And we got to see people fishing and making their living on the river.
We had a really good time on the boat. One of our friends brought a speaker and was playing some old classic rock tunes, and we were just jamming out.
We all kind of just got to take a break and recuperate a little bit from our travels and take time to reflect on the fact that we're in China. In the afternoon, we went to Chengkan, which is a Chinese medicine village with the leader, Mr. Li.
Master Li, in fact, has been appointed to be the heir of Chinese medicine. And Mr. Li was also voted to be one of the top 30 doctors here in Chinese medicine.
Master Li has 5 children, and all of his children practice Chinese medicine. I was really fascinated by their family lineage and how they passed down the traditions of medicine to their children. It was also a really fascinating story how he came to the village, because he married into it and adopted the last name, which is relatively unheard of. It was interesting to find out that Chinese medicine is constantly evolving. I think coming into this I had the stigma that there was a certain set of rules, but I learned that it's constantly progressing and that they're constantly coming up with new ways to treat illnesses that are prevalent in our modern day.
So a couple of our classmates actually got the chance to be examined by Mr. Li.
I reached out my hand and he touched my pulse. I stuck out my tongue and he looked at my tongue and also just looked at me and my body, and was able to make a reading on my current health. He told me to stop eating fried food, which I definitely should do that. He also mentioned that he noticed I get irritated easily, which is pretty funny. I like to think of myself as kind of a calm person, but I suppose he was probably right there.
He told a couple people there were issues with certain organs or their digestive tracts.
How's your bowel movement?
Consistent.
He said, maybe you shouldn't eat this thing, or maybe you should stop exercising as much. Afterwards, Mr. Lee took us to another museum with a huge courtyard. He took us into kind of a big hall where we sat. The big hall here is designed as a turtle, and where we sat was sort of the turtle's stomach. The turtle represents longevity. When we walk in, there's a little design on the ground in stone that, depending on which way you look at it, you see the old man, and when you emerge, you see the young child. And it's just this idea of life and the progression of time and longevity.
This was an incredible experience. Mr. Lee was very stoic, and you could tell just by looking at him and his family that clearly they were very experienced in medicine and experienced in life in general.
Today was actually my favorite day, I think, so far. I was really able to just relax and take in everything and really appreciate just all of what we've been seeing and experiencing.
So today we started off in Fuxia Village. This was a cool spot because it was very localized.
What struck me about that place was that they're not as well off there, I don't think. They don't have a main export like the village we went to the other day where they sell all the bonsai trees. It's still a beautiful village, and it's surrounded by these beautiful mountains. We had the opportunity to go see an ancient Hui opera.
So when we got in the opera house, there was tons of people from our group and from the village. They were dressed in elaborate Chinese attire and these long flowing dresses, and they had their face painted in white with red lines across them. There was these kids performing, and one of them appeared to be the emperor. The young kid who was acting as the emperor was really passionate in his performance, and you could tell that it's a big part of his life and that he really values his opportunity to perform. HuiZhou, or Anhui opera, is a variety of Chinese opera from the east central province of Anhui, China. It got its name from HuiZhou, which is now Huangshan, and this is where the opera originated. It has existed for over 300 years. The HuiZhou opera was mixed with a number of different styles and turned into the Peking opera.
They were dancing and singing to some ancient story with this music playing in the background with lots of clanging of drums and cymbals.
I really enjoyed the music. It was sporadic and dramatic. Immediately, I knew that this was the place to make the documentary. There were so many kids who were involved in the opera and so many chances to find the right subject.
I was actually able to go up and wear one of the dressing gowns and do a little dance with a couple of my friends. The guy, he was very energetic. I don't think we were quite prepared. He did a little jump and flip backwards, and that was kind of hard to follow. But it was really fun. So for lunch, we got to go to this really cool restaurant where we actually got to prepare some of the food.
The lunch was great. It was pretty funny. It was like a 15-course meal, and we didn't want to be rude, so we just kept eating and eating until we were stuffed.
We had these dumplings that were really good, and we had these pancakes that were filled with onion and greens. They were really good too.
Good, thank you. Wow.
So after lunch, we went to an ink making factory.
When we were coming up, I could hear this super loud pounding noise, and I was really curious as to what it was. And inside, there was two men who had this black doughy-like thing.
One man was beating it with the hammer, and then another man was molding it and shaping it.
They pounded and flattened, and then they put in this little compress. And made it into these little squares with insignias on them.
And then there were two women in the back who were working on the finished blocks, just embellishing them with gold and putting pretty little designs on it.
The ink sticks are used as ink for writing. It made me really happy to see people still working with their hands and just putting that extra feel and emotion into the things that Chinese people use in their daily lives. I got to pound down the clay-like mixture, which was a combination of ashes from burned trees and glue. It was actually a lot more difficult than I expected, and it was pretty impressive that this man does it for such a long time each day.
How did they aim it? Yeah.
Oh wow, it's just so funky.
We got the chance to use the ink that they were making and do our own sort of calligraphy.
It took me like 10 minutes just to learn how to hold the brush. I had Jenny Lau next to me, who is a teacher at San Francisco State. Really just a great person, a great leader, and she's so informative.
Jenny actually taught me the symbol for mountain and water, so we drew those and it was really fun. Today I learned that in ancient Chinese traditional calligraphy, there are 4 of what they call treasures of study, meaning brush, ink, paper, and inkstone. The ink which we got to experience today is ground out from the ink stick with some water. So the reason that they produce the sticks is because it lasts longer than the liquid ink and it's just easier to transport. The sticks are made from pines that grow on Mount Huangshan, which used to be part of the HuiZhou district, so that's where it got the name of Hui ink. The most famous ink sticks in China are the Hui ink sticks, which are produced in Anhui province. So tomorrow we have 2 assignments due, one of which is our research paper, where we have to decide on 3 topics and just tell them what we know and just everything that we've learned. The other assignment we have to do is to work on the proposal for our documentary, which we get to work on with our groups.
I'm excited for the next steps, and we're going to be meeting tomorrow with our groups, and I'm excited to talk about how to authentically represent our subjects.
We're going to be busy all day just writing and trying to figure out what we're actually going to do.
Died and that died with him. Script the editor.
The second and third week of the course has been extremely exhausting, more so than the first week. So the second week was mainly filming our subjects and getting the information we needed and the footage we needed. And the final week was all editing.
How many good?
100.
I think it's just incredible what we can do with just a camera and some sound equipment.